Okay, good afternoon folks, and welcome to the final day of the Tour de Monde 2022. Today is the penultimate time slot of the tour, in the last day as I say. So my guess is that the race and overall is going to be decided in this session. we will see. Because I don't expect the time differences to be large in this running of the race. We've got 110 folks signed up for this one. Let's see how many we get on the start line, and it promises us to be an interesting stage. You can see from the profile it's trending downhill for like 3/4 of the race, so it's going to be a fast one. Yes, it's rolling, but it's going to be a fast one. Then we dip down into that dip that you can see, and then it's a really cruel climb up to the finish, and that's going to catch a few people out, I'm pretty sure. So we may see some smaller time gaps, but with an elevation profile of only 388 meters, I don't think we're going to see many gaps. Now, the general standings, as you can see, we've got Henrik Mard with 2 minutes and 3 seconds over John, and John is not going to pull that back today. And then we got a further 10 minutes back to Casper, who managed to cement his third place yesterday from Joris. I said Joris would probably drop down. So I think your first, second and third are going to stay as is. Now the interesting one is the 5th place, because you've got James Melville and Kevin Savello, and in fact Peter Brook-Varvel, all on 11:49. So 5th, 6th and 7th could definitely change hands, and to be honest, the top 10, well, the top 9 could. I don't see Rocket Roy Neal catching up places from where he's in 10th place, but certainly 9th to 4th could well switch around. So we'll see what happens. We're very short on time before the start today, so we're going to get underway in 2 seconds, and this is going to be an exciting start. I do think it's going to be another fast and furious. Well, you can see 64 kilometers off the line, so John Beams has shot off like a rocket. He'll be trying to go for a fast one today, and this stage more or less lends itself to that. I mean, look at the profile, it's trending downhill, and then you've got that steep bit of blue before we do get into the trough proper, before that very steep climb up, and that climb up will sort out a few riders, and will, if the group hasn't split by that time, will definitely sort them out towards the end. But this is a stage for the really tough guys, for the big riders, to get a bit of a gap before we hit that final climb. Now, if the group stays together, if we have a large group going into that final climb, anything can happen. But I'd like to suggest that we'll see a few splits in the peloton. You can see the back of the peloton, 82, 3, 4, 5 here, struggling to hold on to the pace. And we're going to see that throughout this stage. Excuse me, I'm still under the weather in terms of my breathing and chest. But yeah, we're going to see that. We're going to see riders dropping off the back. It's not going to be the kind of stage where all the group is going to stay together, because the downhill selection and the fast pace being set up front is definitely going to see riders during this stage dropping off, not being able to manage the pace. How many we got? 123 online, so that's a huge turnout today. And as I say, I do feel that this stage will almost definitely be the last one to sort out the top 10. I don't see this evening's really having much of a change to the positions after we've run this lunchtime slot. But, you know, never say never. I think this is one of the stages where some of the riders that have not managed to pick up a stage yet may well go for it. Nick Greenhalgh will do well before he gets to that final climb, but this is not Nick Greenhalgh's stage, I'm afraid. I can say quite confidently he won't win today, because the final climb up that steep red hill is going to go against him. And in fact, the power riders, they would have to have a fairly decent gap to stand a chance of taking this stage at the end there, if the main group is together. So I think this is the kind of stage that is going to suit, sadly, once again, the favourites like John Beams and Henrik Mard. Maybe throw a few other riders in here, but I think they've got the power to be able to stay with the front of the group, and then they'll take off at that final climb and it'll be all over. So I can only see one of the favourites taking today's stage. So who have we got in the pain room? We got Keith in here now. That's the first time I think we've seen him for a while. Stuart Murray. Obviously we saw Ben yesterday and Joris. John Stevens is back. Nice to see John back in again. And these riders will be, and John giving us a wave there, but these riders will be taking it steady on this stage. When I say taking it steady, they'll be pushing the pace, but taking it steady in terms of they'll be sorting their efforts out, because everybody knows this stage is all about that last climb, and getting there with the main group makes perfect sense. Don't bother trying to push off the front and break things up. Just stay with the pack, chase down any lone riders that are trying to break away, but stay with the pack, get to that climb, and then, you know, give everything you've got. And that's going to be the tactic, I'm convinced. I'm actually going to ride this stage myself tonight. You can tell from my coughing and spluttering that I'm definitely not going to be racing it, but I am going to ride it, so it's going to take me considerably longer than the races in this time slot are going to do it in. But feel free to join me this evening, and I will stream it. I will live stream it, and I will flick through the riders as well. So riders that are not here, for example, I don't think Casper's here in this session, so he'll probably once again be riding tonight. He's already got his third spot. He's already safe on classification, so his ride tonight isn't going to make a blind bit of difference, to be honest. The first, second and third are not going to change hands now. Greg Barnett, we know how strong a rider he is. Obviously Henrik, he's always wanted to try and push a little bit off the front, but the main group are not going to give them enough elastic here to break it. They're just going to keep them within reach. And as I say, the aim here for the group is to get to the bottom of that climb all together, and then one of the favourites is going to take this. I would like to think it would be somebody that hasn't won a stage yet, but I just, my heart would like to see that. My head says it's not going to happen. And Henrik may well want to take the last stage just to cement his overall. I mean, the battle he put up yesterday with John Beams was absolutely phenomenal. One of the best races that I've commentated on in terms of performances from the two of them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that dynamic today, because I'm sure John would like to take another stage and sort of say, you know, watch me, and I'm not going to be far off in the next one. So Yeah, we'll see what happens. But you know, there's a lot of good riders in this front group, and if it does all stay together, anything can happen. But as I say, my head says that it will be one of the favourites. Looking a bit further back, Hawaii is managing to hang on to this group, and he needs to do so if he wants to stay up in the 80s for his place on the road. He's got his work cut out because this is a tough stage for riders lower down the order. You know, there's going to be no let up. It's very fast and requires an awful lot of effort. I'm certainly I'm looking forward to returning to riding, but I think I could have picked an easier stage than this, because that last section is definitely going to be very painful, and I'm sure we'll see that with the leaders. It's been an absolutely fantastic tour to commentate on. I've very much enjoyed it. All the stages are going to be on the ZMS website, so you'll be able to catch up after the event if you have missed some. Many of them, once I've finished editing, will be on my website as well, on my YouTube feed. Certainly the ones that I've covered individually myself, but also the ZMS ones, I edit the videos and then we put them up on there as well. So we'll have the majority of the tour on both sites for you to check out after the event. And I think next up for OTR is the Tour of Oceania, which is a mini tour. But we've got a pretty full calendar, and I'm looking at running my own event later on in the year, but trying to find a decent time slot that's going to fit in with everything is not an easy task. Yeah, Kenneth Vancino, as you can see, is saying a fast race until the climb, and that's exactly right. It's the pace is just going to be unforgiving. Yeah, thanks, Christoph. I will definitely enjoy tonight's ride, but I won't be racing. I'm still not in that kind of form yet. Nice to see these 4 teammates all working nicely together. Look, all 4 Danes, all 4 teammates. This is nice to see. I mean, the Danes do seem to put a lot of riders into these tours, which is really something which you know, other nations can see if they can match them, because I'm sure the Danes have got by far the biggest presence, probably, and maybe the Americans. But it's been a tour where we've seen every type of rider and every nation. It's a real credit to RGT and the platform. The community has been great. We've had a lot of good banter amongst folks, a lot of good riding. Yeah, it's been very enjoyable. And this is the last one. This is the last effort. There's Ben. Ben looked absolutely exhausted after yesterday's session. He looks exhausted now, and he's only just started. So you can see he's in the red, so that's probably why he's looking a little bit like he's working really hard here. High heart rate as well, 172. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, folks. For a rider, for a mid-pack rider to stay with this front group, they have to work really, really hard, because they're not hanging about here. They're working very hard to push this group along. Obviously, the favourites are going to be sat in, having a relatively easy time. John Stevens, yeah, trying to control his breathing. You can see high wattage here, but controlling his heart rate nicely. Very high cadence, so that'll be helping with his breathing. Yeah, looks good. John looks good here. Looks well in control of his efforts. He gave me a wave there, so he's probably listening to me. I love these paint cams. The fact that I can speak to the drivers, to the riders directly. Most of them are watching the feed. If not, they watch it later. Yeah, and it's good to have this kind of two-way activity with them as well. Well, I mean, we've now got 5 of these Danish riders, look, all together. What a superb effort. Hope they can stay together till they get to the climb. That would be pretty cool. But here's Nick, and once again pushing around his huge gear. The red you can see is not going into threshold here. The red you can see here is the braking, because he's riding on somebody's wheel and he's getting the auto braking lights coming on, which can sometimes be confusing. I've mentioned this in a post to the forums that I'm often confused by it. I can't tell whether a rider's in threshold. I mean, John's definitely at 219 watts. Is definitely not in threshold. So once again, this is just braking, and that's the reason why he's showing red figures. But you can see his heart rate is ridiculously low. I mean, 123. We know John can certainly raise it into the 160s, 170s. So he's not even. I guess he's probably in about zone 2 at the moment, and that is without a doubt the correct tactic with this kind of a race. You know, the GC is more or less over now. Him and Henrik are not going to be battling it out on this kind of a stage until they get to that final climb. So why waste energy trying to push off the front of a huge, fast-moving group like this? The tactic is just to stay with them, stay in the group, recover as much as possible, do as little work as possible, and save it all for that last few kilometres. Well, I'm saying, yeah, last few kilometres up that climb and over the top. And it is a downhill finish, so once again, that's going to suit the likes of John Beams as opposed to Henrik. Henrik, we saw yesterday, he has the advantage. If it was a true uphill finish, Henrik would have the advantage, but the fact that it goes up and then plateaus and then slightly downhill, that's really, Henrik needs a gap, otherwise it more suits John Beams. But we've seen this play out, and I think we're going to see it play out again today. The question will be whether Henrik can get a gap on John going over the top. If he can, he'll take the stage. If not, the stage is possibly going to go to John or another one of the big favourites. We shall see. Nice to see James Ogilvie, my boss and team captain, doing a stint on the front. As we return to these riders here, the Danes pushing everything along. And 6 Danish riders now. That's pretty impressive. Yeah. So here you can see John is just looking very, very comfortable. Stuart Murray needs to get his camera focused. Stuart, we can't see you, mate. You're very blurred, so you're working hard though. We can see that mid cadence at in the 70s. Heart rate monitor is obviously it's either the well-known RGT glitch, where heart rate monitors are crap, certainly Bluetooth heart rate monitors, or it needs a new battery. We'll go with the RGT. We do know it is an issue, and that's not a criticism of RGT. We just know there's now more than enough data and more than enough riders having heart rate monitor problems on RGT for it to be a known issue. But it's nice to see that he is actually wearing one. So the fact that it's not working correctly is probably not down to our colleagues for you know, fault. It's probably, and here we go. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is this 7? Are we up to 7 now? No, 6. See, I'm struggling with my counting. But 6 Danish riders all together. Fantastic. I hope they manage to stay together. I really do. This is superb. I mean, yes, they're further down the order, but yeah, to stay together like this and work together. They're more or less riding this as a team time trial, folks. This is great work. And this could well see them finish higher than if they were riding individually. So they could be gaining a few places here. Very nice to see. So we're a third of the way into the ride now, a little bit over for the front men. And I'm not sure what to think of the winning time this morning, because I've never heard of the rider. I think it's the first time he's ridden in the tour. His name's John Bobilac. No idea of country. Now the RGTDB website is not showing rider data, so I can't even click on his name and look at his results or his data. But he's come in with a 55.25, which is way faster than the likes of Daniel Badker and other guys that ran in the 0700 hour running of this race. So we'll see whether his time stands, whether he's 55, but that does sound fast. And we'll have to wait and see whether our riders can overhaul that or not. As I say, and this is from the 0100 CET running of the event. That time was set. So let's see what happens as we get further in the stage. I'll be able to calculate the finishing time once we get more underway. It's nice to see Keith in the pain room. Keith is one of the senior vets on RGT, well, probably the best senior vet on RGT. Very good racer. And you can see he's got a lovely high cadence here. Looks fairly stable on the bike. Yes, it's a side-on view, so it's a bit difficult to see. But you can see from his wall and all the pins on, he's been around for quite a long time as Keith on the racing scene, and he's got some good results behind him. So he's someone to be reckoned with in the Vets Leagues, that's for sure. There he is. We're just highlighting him now. Look at all the numbers in the background, folks, and just look at that jersey he's wearing very proudly. Blowing a bit here, so he's working hard, but a lovely nice cadence, you know, 80s. Yeah, that's okay. Heart rate monitor, another one that isn't working. This could be down to the RGT glitch, or it could be he needs a new battery. I suspect it's down to the RGT glitch. You can see it's not moving at all, and that means basically RGT is not picking up the metrics. And I suspect that's what the problem is here. His and many others. It's a known issue. The red figures are not his power output. The red figures are from the braking that's taking effect. So it's not that he's going over threshold, it's because of the braking effect when he gets into the draft and a rider in front of him. One of the things I'd like to see, I'll just mention it one more time, I'd like to see RGT change the colour slightly. All right, leave it red if you want to, but change the colour slightly between the above FTP effort and the braking, just to make it a little bit easier when that's happening there, it's pretty obvious that it's the braking that's happening. But sometimes in all the action, when you get a large group, it can be difficult. I can call out, oh, somebody's going over the threshold, when it's actually the braking. So it might be nice to have a bit of a distinction between the two. Not usually an issue, but it can be an issue when the action really hots up and you've got a larger group. I mean, one of the things I look for in a group like this is certainly if somebody's pushing off the front, like we can see Oliver Vu, when he goes red, we know it's above threshold. But I often watch for riders going red because I know then that they're making a push for the front and possibly off the front, as we see James Melville doing exactly that. And that's the key for me. So that's why I like to be able to sort of like look at the names and see the riders that are going red. And if I'm mistaking braking for above threshold efforts, then it can confuse me at times. But having said that, I'm very easily confused. But it is a way of watching for riders putting in big efforts to try and get on or off the front. Again, a perfect example there is Oliver going red and then switching places at the front of the ride. But this group is going to stay together. I am pretty convinced of that. They've whittled it down, as I said they would. Don't know exactly how many riders now. We'll see if we can get a graphic on the riders at the back and then do a count up. But I suspect there's probably about 50 riders in this group. And they're possibly more, who knows, but they're not really going to split up until we get to the climb. Here we go. How many riders have we got here? 30. Oh, here we go. We can see. Yeah, there's 40 riders. So there's 40 riders in this front group. 41 actually, in this front group. And we saw a similar stage, if you remember, earlier on in the tour, where we had 40 riders like this going into the final part of the stage. And they managed to split it up, and we managed to get it down to about 20, and then it was split down further to about 12 riders. We're not going to see 12 riders coming into the finish on today's stage because of that climb. We're going to see at the most 3 or 4 breaking away. I'm pretty sure of that dynamic, because there aren't, and this is no reflection on the riders, but there aren't 12 riders in this group capable of matching the pace of Henrik and John when they take off. If they take off, I mean, they may decide, you know, they've done enough in the tour, but something tells me they're going to want to go for the win here, because they're both very proud riders and they both want to finish on a high. So I'm predicting that it will be Henrik or John that takes the win today. I don't really see, I mean, we've got Tony. No, I don't really see anybody else in this group challenging that. I really don't. We've got some good riders, but nobody capable of the kind of power outputs that we're going to see from them two at the end. I mean, never count out last year's winner, James Melville, and he's staying under the radar. Notice that we've hardly even mentioned James Melville, because he's not even in the top 10 front places, as we take another look at Ben. But James Melville is staying out of the action, which is a really, really sensible thing to do. He's obviously saving his powder. I say that, and now he is near in the top 10. But yeah, he's basically staying out of the action. he's not putting in an awful lot of effort. And in fact, a lot of these riders are doing exactly that as well. A lot of the riders in this group are not showing themselves. They're just rolling along with the group, quite happy to take advantage of the drafting and save whatever energy they've got until the final selection, which is going to happen on that hill. And just here we go, over a look at Torleif Solly from Rasio. Just nicely in the draft, so not having to work too hard here. Bergqvist, we haven't seen much of him in this tour. The Swede, he's a nice rider, but I don't know how many stages he's run, but I certainly don't recall him taking part in too many of them. Yeah, people with colour blindness, Matthias. I know what you're saying, mate. But can you appreciate what it is I'm saying? With sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. Just when you're trying, when you're watching the graphics and you're catching it out of the corner of your eye, you're not always looking closely at your numbers. You're just looking to see that they're going red. Like Henrik Mard is now 7.2, but I only know that because I look closely at the number. If I'm actually watching the riders on the road and I'm just glancing over to the left with my eye just to see that it's going red, I'm not always taking notice of the number. It's only when it does go red that I tend to shift my focus and have a look if I think the rider's making a push off the front. I mean, if he's on screen like this and we see 391, we know that we know that he's going red, but it's not always that obvious. I suspect what Henrik's doing here is just pushing the pace up slightly, as we watch James as well coming to the front. So I suspect that's what's happening here. They're just having a little bit of push because we're getting close to this very steep downhill that's going to take them into the valley. It's going to be balls out along the valley, I can tell you, because some of these riders are going to want to try, and I use the word try lightly, they're going to want to try and get to the climb first before the main big hitters, but that's not going to happen. I think the front of this group are going to stay together and arrive at the climb together. Now I could be wrong, we could see a couple of riders manage to get away on this downhill, but I have a feeling I'm going to call this one correctly, and that the main group are going to stay together until we get to the base of the climb. Now they've already shed out a few more riders. I think I saw 34 now, so they've shed a few more riders by means of the attrition that's going on. Attrition being they're upping the pace, as you saw Henrik and James and a few others pushing the pace on the front, and that has the effect of getting rid of the slightly weaker or riders that are struggling to hang on, and I think they've got it down into the 30s now. So they're shedding a few riders. You can just see at the back a couple are struggling to hang on, and that's going to be the case as they hit this downhill really fast. There's going to be a few riders really struggling to hang on here. You can see in the distance, I think I can see two back in the distance as we watch Soderberg more or less at the back in 33rd place. So they've managed to shed about 7 riders already. Here we go, look, exactly what I'm saying. They've managed to shed a few riders here. These riders, for example, and then there's another 4 riders behind these 4. So they've shed about 7 or 8 riders. And that's the kind of thing you expect when it goes absolutely ape. I mean, Keith, I'll bet if we switch to the paint can now, he's absolutely burying himself to try and get back to this group. He's in the red, as you can see. He'll be absolutely trying to crush this to get back on. He might do so. He's blowing. Really, really working hard. Come on, Keith. I'm cheering for you, lad. Get back on. But that's a tough ask. And when he does, he's got to jump into the middle of the group to recover. You can't hang off the back and try and get that recovery. There he is, look. Now, can he get the wheel? Yes, he can. So he's got the wheel. Now, Keith will know as well as I will know. He has no, they've sped up again, and has he got enough to close it once more? He's got a teammate, James Ogilvie, trying to pull him back. So James is trying to get him back onto the wheels. If he can do so, and Keith, yep. Oh, that's a fantastic effort. Well done, James. Absolutely fantastic effort to bring your teammate back into the group. Yeah, that's been the highlight of the race for me. Superb effort by James Ogilvie to bring Keith back into the race. Absolutely. And that's what you need, folks. You need a wheel. You need to get back in. Now, Keith really, he'll be absolutely knackered here. You can see he's out of the saddle. He's pushing the pedals around hard, just trying to stay with them because the pace is going up. They're approaching the base of the climb, and the pace is being raised by these riders on the front. Daniel Schock at the moment out front. He was in the pain room the other day. We know how hard he can work. And he's just motoring off the front here, look. Pushing this pace up. That's CJ1. It's the first time I've seen him. I think that's the Korean flag. In fact, I know it's the Korean flag. He's pushing the pace along as well. Yeah, absolutely amazing team effort, Damon. I love that. That was really fantastic to see. But sadly, this is what I mean about burning matches. Keith has just burnt one too many matches closing that gap, and he's gone now. He will not get back. He won't mind me saying so either. But fantastic effort, Keith, to make it that first time with your teammate James. Now, James is behind him, so James can't help him anymore. Keith's done his work. There's James behind. Now, they may well hook up together. Keith may well find some more teammates to help him along the road, but he knows, and I know, he's not going to get back to that group now. A solo rider cannot close that kind of a gap. So he's basically looking at cementing his place on the road now, trying to stay ahead of the riders behind, one of which is James. So if James can join him, they can work together and maybe cement 31st and 32nd, 31st to 33rd place. We shall have to wait and see. They've got Oliver there as well, the other OTR rider. So we've got 3 OTR riders here, and they can basically work together to make sure that they're not overtaken by the riders behind, who are closing in on Oliver. So, but now we've got Mark Rowbottom from Rasio pushing the pace along on the front in this valley. You know, we're still going downhill. It's still slightly downhill here, so the pace is still ferociously high. And you can see behind them, you can see the riders on the road behind them, so they've slimmed the group down. Now, I did say we'd see a large group coming into the base of the climb, and that's exactly what you're going to get. But once the climb starts, you'll initially see, you know, a largish group going up the climb, but then you're only going to see 3 or 4 riders, I think, challenging at the front. I don't know this CJ1. He's putting in some good numbers here. Let's hope he's a legit rider. And Canopus J1. So I don't think I've seen him before, so I've no history on the man, no heart rate, so that's a potential red flag for me. You know how I feel about that, because it's in the instructions, it's in the manual. Anybody fighting for a top spot, and certainly anybody winning a stage, must have a heart rate monitor that's working. And for him not to have a heart rate monitor so that we can check him, that's a red flag for me. But that's just my opinion. That's, you know, it's for the race commissars to sort that one out. Joris, doesn't he look calm? Just slight rocking of the shoulders here. He's definitely working, but my feeling is Joris is just, yeah, he's just doing his thing in the group here. Yeah, I really wish we had more data on this fellow off the front here. And again, you can't go on the RGTDB website and check on these riders because it's down, and it's been down for a good while as well. The rider data isn't available at the moment because they're doing some work on the website. So there's Keith after making his huge effort to try and stay with the group. There's Stuart, smiling, looking good. There's Henrik, looked calm and collected. Ben Phillips, working really hard. I think Ben is still in with the main group, as is Joris. So yeah, we're going to see that group get to this climb together, but then it's just going to explode. You're going to see the main contenders going to the front and just shooting up the climb. Now, what I said about a few riders, and Daniel's proven me right here, you're going to get a few riders trying to get a leap at the start of the climb because they know that they're going to be chased by John and Henrik. So yeah, it's no surprise that we're seeing Kevin Savello and Daniel Schock and Ben Phillips trying to get a little bit of a start before the climb, but it's not going to happen. The group is just, yeah, they're not going to let anybody take a significant gap. So this is it, folks. This is the race into the start. Starts off gentle with the orange, so you can see it's 4.5% at the moment, but and we see Kevin stopping now. No idea why Kevin's stopping. He's back again. 4.4, yeah, and 5. So Kevin had possibly had a dropout there, which is really sad to see. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see a rider of Kevin's class, you know, have a dropout at that stage in the race. And he's quickly coming back. He's probably angry, and that can have an amazing effect on your performance. Can anger, because it's happened to me, and I've absolutely shot up a climb after having a dropout. So yeah, it's amazing what it does. Henrik now in serious mode, out of the saddle, blowing a little bit here, 438 watts and more, so he's working hard but still controlling his heart rate, and his heart rate monitor, we know, is working. So he's still not he's not really going balls out here. He's timing his effort. I mean, he has got a low heart rate, we know that anyway, but he's not really going full gas here, but he is putting in an effort. You can see him blowing, cheeks out there. John always looks the same, trying to get the air in, mouth open. He'll be working hard to try and stay alongside Henrik. So yeah, interesting, very, very interesting. There's John, close-up picture of him, mouth open, trying to get the air in. High heart rate. Notice how now John's normally at this stage is normally in and around the 150s. He's in the high 160s, so you know he's very close to working at his maximum, and you could see him going in the red there. So almost certainly working almost at his max here to try and bring this CJ1, who I hope is a legit rider, to try and bring him back, and in fact overtakes him. One of the things that we don't want to see, and I'm not calling CJ1 out, like I say, the commissaires will have to decide on this, but he should be wearing a heart rate monitor, and I'm not calling him out, but I really want to see only legitimate riders you know, being involved in the racing for these stages. Henrik has currently got a small gap up the front. Now, I did say that Henrik would need a gap on the climb in order to hold off John at the top, because John is going to have the advantage when it goes into the orange and the green. So if he's got a decent enough gap, he can keep John behind him, but it needs to be a reasonable gap, and at the moment it is. So is it? No, it's not. John's got on. My apologies, I didn't realise John's got back on his wheel. So wow. And if it stays like this, you have to fancy John, like we did yesterday at the end. But we'll see what happens. We're hoping that CJ1 Paul, Derek and Damon, yeah. So CJ1, you know, welcome to the race and everything else. But please try to wear a heart rate monitor in future races. Okay, so anyways, he's managing to stay with our two leaders, so he's obviously a strong rider. Let's see what happens. And on the 9.5% section, it does get steeper, folks. This is a brutal climb up to the finish. And similar to what we saw yesterday, only this time you have a bit of a longer transition at the top of the climb. You have you have that orange where it goes back into the 4%, give or take, and then you have a green section where it is actually slightly downhill. So it's going to lead to a very fast finish, and if the riders are together, then like I say, my money's on John. You can see Nick absolutely burying himself again. Look, he'll be laughing with me. Well, not so sure about laughing, but yeah, there's John. I mean, it's lovely to see. Not John, Rick. Yeah, and Stuart. Keith also working hard out of the saddle. Yeah. And John is really working hard here to try and stay with. Henrik will try and drop him. That's his modus operandi, without a doubt. Clive's unzipping his jacket now, just getting a little bit too hot. Joris just climbing out of the saddle, hunched back. Ben Phillips looking like he just wants to get this over with, like he did yesterday. John Stevens even has got his mouth wide open, gasping for air. So yeah. So we watch the riders behind. Joris, Shapers and O'Cullough. James Melville just in front of them. Kevin. So these are the riders that are fighting for top 10 places. I don't see huge time gaps today, so I don't think we're going to see much change in the overalls. But you never know. I mean, Rocket Roy Neild is looking good here. But he needed a big time gap to change his position. I think he's in 10th on GC. So he needs to claw back a lot of time in order to change his position. But there's John, look, trying to get the air in, heavy breathing. And this hurts, folks. 10.3% at the end of a stage like this. Not going to be easy for any rider. He's got his teammate Daniel to work with him slightly, so perhaps they can help each other to the top of this climb. But to be honest, you just get into your own rhythm. CJ1 looks like he's pulled ahead, but what I am pleased to see is that, you know, if he's legit, then all credit to him. If he's not, it'll get sorted out. But what I'm glad to see is that neither John or Henrik are able to get on his wheel and take any advantage from him. So to me, he's not influencing the race, whether he's legit or not. He's not overly influencing the results of this race, because John's 30 odd meters behind him, so he's not getting any drafting benefit whatsoever. Not that you get much drafting benefit on this kind of a climb, but there is a little bit of benefit to be had if you can hold somebody's wheel, and certainly from a visual point of view, it can be a huge benefit as well. Now John has totally broken Henrik here. He's got a really good gap on Henrik, and you know, he's going to claw back some time, but he's 2 minutes in arrears, so he's definitely not going to get 2 minutes, but he is going to get some time. He could get, you know, it could be, what is it he's got now? He's got 30 odd meters or more, 70 meters, so that relates to what, about 20 seconds maybe. So that's a decent pullback of time. It could even be more by the time we get to the finish. But he's not going to close up 2 minutes. This is more for pride than anything else, and to make a statement. Watch me in the next tour. You know, he's a very good competitor, is John, as is Henrik. So. And you can see he's hurting. Just look at that face. He's hurting. This is not easy. He's definitely giving everything he's got. He's very near to the finish, and he's giving absolutely everything he's got, as is Henrik. Look at Henrik, out of the saddle, gasping for breath, trying to push those. He's slowed down his cadence because he's working so hard, trying to push a bigger gear, trying to close this gap. So he's pushing. Look, see what I'm saying? He's down to 70 now. Now Henrik is normally an 80s man, and he's down to 70 here because he's pushing a bigger gear, just trying to claw back some of the gap, trying to push a bigger gear, which is a lot harder for a spinner to do, but it is a way of trying to close up the gap. Now CJ1 is going to take the win here, not by much, but he is going to take the win. And as I say, I hope when everything turns out that it's proved that he's legit. He should be wearing a heart rate monitor. Okay, there you go. So John Beams is going to take second spot. Henrik has taken third. Now we didn't watch them coming over the line because the camera was on CJ1. But there they are. So John Beams got second, Henrik got third. Now who's going to get fourth place? It looks like Kevin is just going to do a number on James. Or is he? Is James going to catch him? If he gets on his wheel, there's a good... and there's James. You see, that's racecraft. That is definitely... Oh, I say that. Photo finish, but I think Kevin got it. I think, yeah, Kevin just got third place. Sorry, not third place, fourth place. Are we? The settings are wrong here. What's happening? Because it's showing Kevin in third place. Now I don't know what's happening here, folks, with the leaderboard. We'll see what happens when we get Damon's live feed for the results. It's showing Henrik down in 7th. Now, tell me he didn't have a dropout, please. Tell me he didn't have a dropout coming into the line, or cramp or something, please. And in fact, Henrik is not over the line yet. What's happening here? Oh, this is a disaster. This is a disaster. Henrik Mard is at the side of the road, not able to cycle. Do we know what's happened? I'm just going to message. Oh, this is a disaster. And no, this is no way to lose a tour. No, definitely not. I really I'm praying that this is not happening, because this is no way to lose a tour. A dropout, what is it, 200 meters from the line? No, that's crazy. But he's definitely not moving up the order. Look, every rider that passes is knocking him further down the order. He's now in 22nd place, and he's definitely going to lose his 2 minutes lead. Okay, can somebody find out what's happening here? James, are you listening? Can you message Henrik and find out what's happening? We need to know. Your viewers need to know what's happening, because this is the tour, and this could mean that Henrik is not going to take the win, which would be a real travesty. No. Oh, I'm really unhappy about this, and really very, 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 very sad. Nobody wants to see this happen on a stage. And this, don't forget folks, this is the last running now. The only thing... That's right, Matthias, he hasn't, and we don't know why. Now, the only thing that could possibly happen, we don't know, Johnny. I'm asking James Ogilvie. He can ride later, and he might have to. But let's be honest here. I mean, Henrik has like almost killed himself riding up this final climb. You could see the effort he's put in. You know, can he really ride tonight and compete? I mean, I'm going to ride tonight, so I will find out. But can he really ride tonight and compete? This is so sad. We've got to find out what the problem is here. I mean, I know it can happen to anybody, but for it to happen to the race leader 200 meters from the line, this is just incredible. Poor lad. And I'm sure John Beams is also upset at this, because this is not the way that John would want to win the tour. I can say that categorically. I know John is a very fine man, and he wouldn't want this to happen. So he'll be as upset about this as I am. Yes, Henrik can potentially ride again tonight, but is he capable of putting in another performance like this? You know, I mean, he's going to have Casper to ride with, but to be honest, Casper's currently not in the same class as Henrik and John Beams. And I don't think he'll mind me saying that. He's just not competing at the same level as these two. Oh, this is horrible. Now here's Clive coming in with Stuart. So our own Clive Byam coming in. I'm really upset at this. Really upset. 180 metres from the line, Henrik. There's James coming in, so maybe James will find out. Maybe James will realise he's just passed Henrik and find out what's going on. Somebody needs to message Henrik if they can and find out what the issue is. But it looks almost certainly like a dropout. And you can't. you know, if this happened in the middle of the tour, then fine. There's more than enough opportunity to ride another stage to get back into contention. But he's going to lose so much time today. He's going to have to ride again if he wants to. In fact, even if he wants to keep his GC not just first place, but he'll now have lost so much time. He'll be well out of GC contention for the podium, or he will by the end of the race if he doesn't get going. So he's going to have to ride again, unless it's something which can be mitigated by the organizer. I mean, is it his fault? Is it RGT's fault? I don't know. So 2 issues today. We need to check on the winner, make sure he's a legit rider, didn't have any heart rate, and I'm not calling him out, I'm just saying he needs to be checked on. And then we had the race leader having a dropout 180 meters from the line. So can we get any more drama? Okay, so his webcam throw, so that looks like it was his PC. Yeah, I agree with you, Damon. So Damon's just messaging me, folks, on the chat, and Damon's saying that his webcam throws, his camera throws, everything throws up. Now that points to a PC problem. So it does look like it's his end, in which case that means he has to go again. He has to race this evening. Yeah, and Paul Nichols has just said he's racing this evening. So he has to go again this evening and just hope he doesn't have any issues. But how unlucky is that? He'd effectively won the tour. All he had to do was cross the line. So, you know, all right, he wasn't taking the win today, but all he had to do was cross the line and he's won the tour. And 180 meters from the line, he's failed to finish. And if he finishes at the back of this tour, folks, that's going to put him down out of the general classification completely. I mean, he's going to lose, I think Casper's about 10 minutes behind. Now, I can safely say that unless Henrik can get going again in this edition, he's going to lose that 10 minutes, which is going to put him out of the top 3. Because Casper would overtake him in 3rd place. So he's got to go again tonight, and he's got to, I don't think he'll lose 2 minutes tonight, but he definitely has to put in a decent performance. You know, and to ask a rider to do that, you saw the way he was riding today. You saw the effort he was putting in, along with John Beams. I mean, the look on the faces and the effort they were putting in. Can he do it tonight? Can he ride a race where he's got to come in within 2 minutes of John Beams? And John's put in a superb ride today. So excitement at the death. I mean, there'll be some people that say, wow, isn't this exciting? Isn't this wonderful? Well, I'm sorry, I'm not one of them. I'm absolutely distraught at this. I just don't think this is the way I wanted to see this tour ending. And yes, he may well come along tonight and take the win, but he shouldn't have to do that. And it just goes to show that, you know, sometimes, you know, shit happens. There's nothing you can do about it. We saw it happen with Robin Sanderson in the early part of the tour. He had 2 dropouts and effectively put him out of the mid-table position he was in. He was looking for maybe a top 10. So it can happen to any rider. And it's really sad. I wish we could have a situation where this didn't happen and it was based purely on riders' performances. So interesting, very, very interesting. So let's change topic and go back to this race, and the winner CJ1, the Korean rider, took the win, and it's now up to the race organisers. Canopus J1 rather took the win. It's up to the race organisers to determine are they going to let him off his lack of a heart rate monitor and let his results stand. That's for them to decide. As we watch the rest of the riders coming in, Mr. Canoe giving us a wave. He's a regular, along with one of his teammates from Team Lu Chao. Nice to see. In fact, 3 of them all together there, Villeneuve as well. So that's nice to see. I said earlier when we saw all the 5 Danes riding together, it's really, and I tell you what is nice, it's nice to see how Y did manage to stay more or less with the group that he was with. So well done, Hal. This is one of your better rides, mate. Well done. As we watch, I think this is Chris Little coming in. Yeah, but I'm just extremely upset about Henrik. I don't think it's going to be as easy as people are thinking, just to ride tonight and put in a winning performance. I think he's going to have his work cut out. You know, it's a tough ask, and there he is. He's still at the side of the road, so definitely going to finish more than 10 minutes down now. We know that, which means he's out of the top 3 as things stand. He has to go again tonight, and he is doing so. We've already received confirmation that he's going to ride again tonight, and just pray, folks, that he doesn't have any technical issues, because for me, Henrik, along with John and a few other riders, have been the absolute stalwarts of this tour. They've given it everything on every stage, you know, and I don't think they deserve this. Currently down in 92nd place. So, like I say, he's no choice. There he is at the side of the road. He's no choice. He has to ride again this evening, and he has to basically put in a stonking ride as well. So it's going to make for a bit of excitement during tonight's broadcast. I will be covering it, so I will post a link on Facebook shortly after we end this broadcast. I'll schedule my system to go live, and we'll do the broadcast tonight. Unless, of course, Damon wants to join me. If Damon wants to do a ZMS, I'm more than happy to do commentary and ride. But I think Damon's got his work. I mean, the lad's putting in an awful lot of work. Maybe he deserves a rest. But either way, I'll be here tonight. I'll be riding, but I'll definitely be covering, and I will cover the front end of the race so that we can watch what's happening with Henrik. And could you get it any more exciting, folks? We're going to go down to the very last time selection of the very last stage of the tour. I mean, you can't get any closer than that. Not what I wanted, but hey, it definitely is going to okay, so Damon has just told me I'll be sorting out something for Henrik. He could have carried his bike over the line and kept first on GC. Okay, well, we don't know what's happening. Paul Nichols said that Henrik is riding tonight. James is saying he doesn't. I'll be sorting something out for Henrik because, yeah, with 200 meters to go, he could carry his bike over the bloody line and still keep first. So I don't know. My only worry is that if Henrik tries to ride again tonight, after putting in such a big effort, so many things can go wrong for him. And I'm not talking technical this time. I'm talking, you know, this is a huge effort, folks, for riders of his calibre to put in. I mean, it's like asking a Tour de France rider to go again after he's finished the stage. It's a huge effort to ask another rider to do. And if he got cramp tonight, which is a very, very high possibility, and I know because I've been there and done this kind of multiple stages thing, cramp is a very real possibility when you're putting in such a big effort and asked to repeat it, no matter how much you hydrate or whatever. Cramps or muscle spasms or something would see him effectively lose his tour. So while it would be nice to see him riding again tonight, I'd be a little bit concerned about whether he could actually finish the stage high enough to cement his place overall. So maybe if he is offered the option of, you know, claiming time, I don't know. It's not my call. James is a very fair individual. I mean, his love of cycling is such that he puts on tours like this, so he's going to want to see fairness. I don't know what the answer is. But having said all that, as we watch the final riders coming into the finish, and we are going to stay to the very end here, lads. So we are going to watch Anne Y coming into the finish. She's got 2.6 kilometres to go. I think she's not Lantern Rouge, but she's very close to Lantern Rouge. I think Mr. Gibbons is the last rider on the road. And then the grey riders that you can see, the ones with the grey flags, they're the bots. And now they shouldn't have been part of the ride, but we omitted to remove them. I'm saying we, Damon omitted to remove them prior to the race, so he left them in. But they haven't influenced anything. They haven't really, you know, nobody's been using them for drafting, so they're just riding their own race. This is the last lad on the road, Mr. Gibbons. 2.8 kilometres to go, so we've not got far or long to wait before he comes over the line. Now, if Henrik Mad decides that he's racing tonight, and I'm sure I'll be watching social media to find out, then myself and Damon may well cover it with a ZMS stream, because it would mean Damon just simply changing the time slots over. All the equipment could more or less stay the same. So yeah, it's a big ask. I mean, that would be amazing, Damon, if you do that. And it would basically give me the freedom. I wouldn't have to try and record, stream and commentate at the same time. Now, those of you know that doing all three is a big ask. To actually ride a stage, to commentate on it, and to cover the race as well is a big ask. If Damon can cover it and all I have to do is ride and commentate, that's much easier because he can do the flicking about of the cameras. He can chase Henrik and Casper at the front of the race. He can flick back to see how I'm doing and suffering, but he can do that seamlessly. I wouldn't be able to do it seamlessly. I would struggle trying to stay riding and trying to do commentary and show the race front. So it would make a big difference, a huge difference to me, if ZMS could cover tonight's race. So we'll see what happens. We'll see whether Henrik decides to race it, and if he does, we're definitely going to come back and join in, because it's basically going to decide the tour. But if James does give Henrik a pass and allows him to take the tour, because 180 metres from the line he could have run in and still kept his, you know, I'm sure he's capable of covering 180 metres with his bicycle, but I don't know. It's not for me to pontificate on. It would be wonderful if he does, though. So here we've got Anne coming up to the finish, 2.2 kilometres to go. Anne's been a real stalwart, like she was in the Tour de Alps of this tour. Finished every stage, most of the times towards the back end, as is the case today. But still, you know, kept it turning over, kept going. and she's fairly decently high up on the ladies classification as well. So as we watch Gibbons overtaking one of the pace bots. Now this is why I'm saying the pace bots haven't really influenced anything today. Riders haven't used them for drafting, as we watch Anne catching on to Lizzie, and when she does catch Lizzie, I'm sure she'll ride on straight past. So riders haven't really used the bots today to pace off. So they haven't affected the outcome of the racing. Yeah, Martin Overweg has just messaged and said just give him the GC. It's not for me to comment on Martin, but I agree. He's, you know, Henrik has been an absolute star, and the battle between him and John this year has been absolutely fantastic to watch. And I think we're going to see much more between the two and others. I mean, I have to mention a few other riders that have really shone in this tour. I'm not going to be able to mention them all, but you know, Nick Greenhouse taking the blue jersey with some stunning rides and taking stages as well. I think he took 2 of the sprint stages. Superb efforts. James Melville, you know, really working hard to try and hang on to his jersey with some really good performances, but you know, John and Henrik just raised it to another level. Casper Hedidam, initially in the running, but then lost time on GC. Now I think he missed a stage which didn't help him, so but either way, I think it's fair to say that Henrik and John were just that little bit better this time out. Yeah, and then, you know, to see 5 teams from OTR on the road, led by James, and all the riders, you know, including Keith Aitchison, who we saw today in the Pain Cave. I think he's ridden every stage, as have many of the other OTR riders. I mean, we've had 5 teams of 6, so we've had minimum 30 riders in every stage, which has been the largest turnout by a long way of teammates in this tour. So a call out to all my teammates from OTR, wonderful riding. But there's just been so many great performances, you know. It's hard just to pick one. Official from Henrik, his home internet went out. So yeah, Matthias is saying just calculate the time. Matthias, will leave it up to James. James is a very fair individual. He's the race organizer, he's the main commissaire. He will sort it out, trust me on that. He will do the right thing. He will speak with Henrik and he will ask Henrik what he wants to do. It could well be that Henrik simply says, nope, I'm going to ride tonight. And then, you know, anything we say doesn't matter. It's Henrik's choice. And I'd respect that, very much so. So at the end of the day, it's down to James and Henrik. You know, James to ask Henrik what does he want, and Henrik to come back and tell him what he wants. And if he says, okay, I'll accept that you know, I don't have to ride, or if he says, nope, I'm going to ride, we'll find out. And I'm not going to query either way, because I think both would be a very fair end to this tour. As I say, my one worry would be that if Henrik decides he wants to ride tonight and then has a problem, and I'm not talking about home internet going, I'm talking about any one of the myriad of problems he could have from putting in 2 absolutely gobsmacking efforts in the same couple of hours. And that's going to be a very tough ask for anybody. So we're watching Anne coming in now. She's on, I think she's on the, yep, she's on the orange section. So Anne won't be very long before she's into the finish. 1.5 kilometres left to ride. Nice and steady away. But this is a request to all race organisers. Let's have a ladies classification next time out. Let's not have this all joined in one, because I don't think it's fair. I think we need and deserve to have a separate ladies classification, because we've certainly had plenty of ladies taking part. All right, maybe not today, but we've had plenty of ladies taking part in this tour, and there's a few notable exceptions that haven't taken part. That maybe if there was a separate classification, they would come along and take part in it. And I'm thinking, you know, riders like Kate Roulette would probably take part if there was a separate classification and she was free. But there's others as well. So, I mean, Holly Larson, I haven't seen her riding in this session. Maybe she rode earlier. We'll see. I've always been a great advocate of giving the ladies equal exposure, equal prize money as well, when I used to run my own races. So we know it's official from Henrik that his home internet dropped out. Now what we need to know is he riding tonight, or is he taking the option of his time being calculated, in which case he will almost certainly take the GC win. We shall see. We shall see. It's been a fantastic tour. I mean, I think you have to admit the courses which have been done by Samir's Magic Roads have been absolutely stunning. Yesterday's in particular, the mountain stage, was absolutely beautiful to watch. And Damon's feeds, they're all at high resolution, all at a minimum of 60 frames a second, so you're getting the best viewing option out there for the feeds. I mean, the quality is fantastic. You can see from the shadows and everything else, the detail that you get on the riders. Beautiful. I wish I could get the same. I mean, I've got a very high powered Mac system and it can't produce anything like this. I'm only sorry I let my PC go, because it was capable of this kind of quality. So 350 meters for Anne, and then we've just got Gibbons to come in. A few meters behind, well, 500 meters behind Anne, and then we're going to wrap it up, folks. But keep an eye on the Facebook page, on social media. I'll post something as soon as I know what's happening. So I'll either post a link to my video feed tonight, or I'll post something about whether we're going to cover it with ZMS or not. So here's P. Gibbons. Have we got his first name? And yeah, Paul. I was going to say it's either a Paul or a Peter, but there we go, Paul Gibbons. So last man in, 1 kilometre left to ride. Just coming over the top of the orange section now, so he'll be on the downslope very quickly. And all I can say, folks, is thank you so much for staying with us throughout the tour. It's been a fantastic experience. I've gained a lot of experience from it. I'm sure so has Damon. We've had some good interaction with our viewers, commenting during the feeds, and we've had some fantastic racing, as I think you'll all agree. Yesterday was a bit of a disappointment in terms of the dropout from Henrik Mard, but that will get sorted. We'll get it sorted. Keep an eye on Facebook this afternoon, and I will definitely post something letting everybody, and in fact you'll probably see posts from other people as well, so you'll definitely find out what's going to happen if you keep an eye on the RGT community page, or the RGT cycling users page, RGT events page. I'm sure there'll be something on those pages that will let you know what's going to happen this evening. And if the worst comes to the worst, and I'm saying the worst, if for any reason there isn't another broadcast by ZMS tonight, then I'm definitely coming along and riding the event, and you can follow me struggling to the finish, but also I will cover the race at the same time. So I'm sure there'll be lots of chatter about this on the feeds, and all I want to know now and to find out is what's Henrik going to decide? Is he going to decide to ride, or is he going to decide to have his time calculated? And if he decides the latter, if he decides to have his time calculated, he will definitely win the Tour, because he had a large enough gap to be able to cover the meters left to the line. Oh, I'm ready for a cup of tea, folks. 1:24, so another reasonably long broadcast. We were online yesterday for over 2 hours, so definitely putting in the time this weekend, and like I say, back tonight for the final session, but then I get a bit of a break. I don't know which is the next tour I'm going to be covering, probably the mini tour of Oceania from OTR, but we'll see. I might even take a break, who knows. Now then, is Henrik still going to be at the side of the road, or has he been lifted? We'll soon know, because it was about the 180 metre mark, and it does look like he's still there at the side of the road. Oh no, he's gone. So whatever's happened, he's obviously left the event for real now. Mr. Gibbons coming into the finish. Now we've no maps to show you because we haven't got anything left. Last stage of the tour, just this evening's run to go, and it's all over and done with. Now the general classification is not going to swap around tonight, whatever happens, other than obviously if Henrik decides to ride tonight and he had an issue. But generally the classification won't change hands in terms of the other riders. Casper is certainly not going to overhaul 10 minutes this evening, so let's wait and see what the decision is from Henrik. On that note, I'm going to say good night, good afternoon, and thank you for all your patience, sticking with us and watching, and we'll see you this evening. Keep an eye on the Facebook forums, and take care everybody, stay safe, and see you later. Bye for now.